In this video, we're going to be looking at standard form. Okay, so here we've got a really big number. We've got 32 billion. And this number might take you a long time to write it out each time. And so we've got a shorter form of writing it. And we call that standard form. It makes it much easier to write really large numbers. And this is how that same number would look if you had written it in standard form. 3.2 times 10 to the power of 10. And here we've got another number written in standard form, 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23. And if you don't recognize it, you probably need to go back and watch our chemistry videos. Now, if you're writing this number outside standard form, it will take a very long time to write out. You'll have plenty of zeros to write. In fact, it will have 21 zeros after the 2. Now we're going to practice putting numbers into standard form and taking numbers out of standard form. So here I've got a number in standard form, 5.7 times 10 to the power of 4. So we need to take this out of standard form. Since we've got 10 to the power of 4, we need to move the decimal place forward 4 places. If you know from before, timesing a number by 10 will move the decimal place forward once. And of course, 10 to the power of 4 means we move it forward 4 times. So here we've moved the decimal place forward 4 times. Now we need to fill in those gaps we created with zeros. So here's our new number, but we don't need that decimal place at the end. Here I've got 3.05 times 10 to the power of 5. So this time we need to move the decimal place forward 5 times. And of course we need to fill in those missing gaps with zeros. And it's as easy as that. So let's now look at some numbers in standard form when the power is negative. So here we've got 2.4 times 10 to the power minus 3. Now we're going to move the decimal place backward 3 times since it's a negative 3. So we're going to move it once, twice and 3 times backwards. And of course fill in the missing gaps with zeros. So we have 0.0024. Now of course you can't just write 0.0024, you need to put a 0 at the front as well. So we have 0.0024. So let's look at this example, and we need to move the decimal place backward 4 times since it's a minus 4. And of course we need to fill in those gaps we created with zeros, and we need to put extra 0 at the front. Now let's look at putting numbers into standard form. So first you pick the first significant number you see, which is the 2 here. And the decimal point comes after that first significant number. And then you can write the rest of the number. So we'll write 5, and after that you got a whole load of zeros. And in this case those zeros will not be necessary because there's no number after those zeros. Then we'll write times 10, and we need to choose a power for the 10. And it's always times 10, by the way. Now look here, the decimal place is actually after those 3 zeros. And we've moved it to between 2 and 5. So we've moved it backwards. We've put it here. So how do we move it back to where it's meant to be? We need to move it once, twice, 3 and 4 times to move it back to where it should be, as the decimal place was originally not between the 2 and the 5. Times 10 to the power of 4. So let's look at another example. Let's put this number into standard form. And the first significant number is the 3. And of course then comes our decimal place. Remember, whenever you put it into standard form, that decimal place must be after that first significant figure. And now we can write the rest of the number. And this 0 we must include because there's still a significant number after it, which is that 6. But the remaining zeros are not necessary because you've already got decimal place. And of course it's always times 10. We just need to choose that correct power. Now we've put the decimal place between the 3 and the 5. Let's see how many places we have to move it to put it back to where it should be. And it's 6 times, so it's 10 to the power of 6. So here we've got a slightly different example. And you've probably already guessed it's going to be 10 to the power of a negative number, as it starts with 0 point. So again, we'll pick the first significant number, and that's the 2, because the zeros we have here are not significant. We always pick the first significant number, and the decimal place always comes after that first significant number, and then we can write the remaining digits. As usual, we have times 10, just need to choose that power again. Now we put the decimal place between the 2 and the 6. How many places do we need to move it to put it back to where it should be? We need to move it backwards once, twice, and 3 times. So it'll be 10 to the power of minus 3. Here I've got a slightly tricky example. I've got 25 times 10 to the power of 4. And the question wants us to put it in standard form. But it already looks like it's in standard form. Now I'll give you a moment to guess why it's not in standard form. And you should have realized the decimal place must be after the 2, the first significant digit. So it should have been written as 2.5, and the rest is times 10. Now we can't write power 4 because we've changed the number slightly. It was 25 and we've made it smaller. We made it into 2.5. So to adjust it and keep it the same, we need to make that power bigger, and it will be the power 5.
Okay, so let's look at some more questions using standard form. So here we've got 2 standard form numbers multiplying each other. Now, with multiplication, we should know the order doesn't matter. And if you're good with your multiplication rules, you should also know the brackets being here and not being here would not make any difference. So we can just get rid of those brackets. Okay, so we did say the order doesn't matter. So why don't we change the order to make this multiplication easier for ourselves? And that looks a lot better. We've got 2 times 1.5. Now 2 times 1.5, you should be able to say is 3. And here we've got 10 to the power 3 times 10 to the power 4. And in these cases, we simply add the powers. And if you're not sure about that, just go and watch the video on indices. So our answer is 3 times 10 to the power of 7. So here we've also got a division involved. Now, it'll probably be best to simplify the top first. Like the previous example, everything is multiplying each other, so the order doesn't matter. So we can do 4 times 2.5 first, which is 10. And then we have 10 to the power 3 times 10 to the power 5. And in that case, we simply add the powers, giving us 10 to the power of 8. So the top now becomes 10 times 10 to the power of 8. Now we can do the division. Okay, so 10 divided by 2 gives us 5. And then we've got 10 to the power 8 over 10 to the power 2. And in this case, you subtract the powers. So that becomes 10 to the power of 6. And we get 5 times 10 to the power 6. And that's already in standard form, so we could leave our answer like that. And there we have it. I hope you found that video useful. Support us by liking, subscribing, and share this with your friends. And if you still got some more questions on anything, drop a post on our forum at examqa.com where you'll find your questions answered.